very warm good morning. You're watching News9. I'm Shweta Kothari. We're bringing you stories from the world of business policy and economy. Let's begin with markets. It's the straight first day after G20 summit here in the national capital. Markets have reacted very, very positively in the green. Both sensex, Nifty, half a percent up almost.
Yes, Shweta. So Indian markets have extended their winning run to almost 7 sessions now. And we are coming off one of the best weeks for the Indian markets in almost 6 weeks, where Nifty and Sensex surged over 2%. And this was despite, Shweta, the dollar index surging past the 105 mark, the Brent crude price exceeding the $90 a barrel mark, the 10-year bond yields surpassing the 4.3%. So Indian markets, despite all of that, were pretty resilient and outperformed major global economies as well, and as a result both Nifty and Sensex were up about 2%. Even in today's trade we can see Nifty and Sensex were both almost up 0.5%. Nifty at 9:40 in the morning was trading above the 19,900 mark, so just 90 points shy of the previous peak of 19,991. Now Sensex has also scaled the 66,800 mark, and Nifty mid cap and Nifty small cap 100, Shweta, are continuing their outperformance. They have outperformed both benchmarks for the past 7 or 8 weeks straight. And in today's morning trade, Nifty mid cap 100 is up about 0.6%, whereas small cap index is up more than 1%.
All right, Suyash. Let's also quickly get in Gaurang Shah, Senior VP, Geojit Financial Services, joining us on the show. Good morning, sir. Good to have you back. Both Sensex, Nifty again at an all-time high. Nifty touching the 20,000 mark there, just shy of 80 points at this point.
Good morning, Shweta, to all of you all, and thank you for having me on the show. So I think we were in conversation last week on Tuesday, and our view on the markets was absolutely clear that once we take out 19,600 on the Nifty spot decisively, I think the move towards 19,991 will be sooner rather than later. And a crossover of that and making an all-time new high is also a reality. And I think it's surprising to see the kind of speed of the market. And it was only because of that long consolidation, Shweta, that we saw in the month of August, almost a month, maybe a little bit more. We spend in that range of 19,200, 300 on the lower side, 19,500, 19,600 on the higher side. And I think as a result of that long consolidation, we are where we are. And I absolutely don't see any kind of hesitation in saying that the all-time high crossover is a reality, and possibly a new all-time high is also a reality. So this momentum will continue only because we've rallied for the last entire week. Maybe there might be a little bit of pause in terms of profit booking, but I think we'll see a new all-time high sooner rather than later.
All right. And what are you attributing this to? Very strong domestic cues, globally not so strong if you look at crude prices. What are you attributing the bull run to?
Well, so I think it was, month of July was a stellar month. We saw almost 1,000-point rally on the Nifty. At the end of June, we were at 19,000. I think by July, we saw an all-time high of 19,991.85. Then entire month of consolidation. And I think this is typical of the market, Shweta. And given the fact that we have crossed over this levels, possibly momentum in terms of earnings visibility, confidence about government policies, G20 meet, I think that's a major game changer, the way India has risen to the kind of level it has, and the kind of confidence that the other leaders of the country are exhibiting towards India. Favorable environment. Crude oil, we are quite comfortable, Shweta, though Brent is at $90 a barrel, NYMEX at about $86, $87 a barrel. But I think our comfort zone with Russia and Iran is a more kind of an optimistic kind of view. Rupee, which has crossed over to 83, has kind of gained some strength against the dollar. So not worried too much about the crude oil impact because we have a comfort zone over there with Russia and Iran. And I think government policies definitely is something that has rebuilt the confidence into the market, and that's the reason why we are.
Hi, Gaurang.
Sorry, Suyash. Before I let Suyash come in, I mean, we are just shy, as I said, of 20,000 mark, and we had an epiphany here, I think a week ago, Suyash, on the show.
Yes, yes. So we are just shy of the 20,000 mark, about 100 points below the 20,000 mark. We have scaled the 19,900 mark again. Now the first target, as Gaurang also mentioned, will be the previous all-time high of 19,991.
Okay.
From there, the buying interest depends where it goes. So Gaurang, I just wanted to get your view on Rupee. Now Indian markets are certainly doing well, but Rupee has been under pressure, and in fact it has fallen to, it is currently trading near its all-time low levels. What's the overhang?
So I think it's not only the rupee, Shreyas, that is weak against the dollar. I think all the currencies, if you go to see, even you take euro for instance, you take any other emerging market currency, that has gained a little bit of weakness against the dollar, and dollar is stronger against all those currencies. So it is universal strength in the dollar that is kind of exhibiting the weakness in the rest of the currencies. But mind you, Shreyas, Indian government is working towards rupee-dominated trade with almost about 18 to 20 countries, if I'm not mistaken. And with this G20, I think that momentum of dominance of dollar is going to come down to a great extent. Local currency dominated trade across the countries, across the borders is something that we'll have to be excitingly waiting for, because the kind of dominance that has been there of dollar, I think that should go away or abate a little bit. I think statements or commentary from the RBI going forward will bring in a little bit of more strength and sentiments on the positive side as far as rupee is concerned. So I would not say that only rupee is weak against the dollar. I would say that dollar is strength against major currencies, Shreyas. I think if you look at from that point of view, I don't think you will have anything to complain about. And the fact is that we have gained some strength on the rupee this morning. It is trading at about 82.85 against the dollar, if I'm not mistaken.
All right, and since we are talking about G20 and the aftermath or after impact rather of G20, and a lot of positive news of course came in by the way of stocks that could be impacted. Let me quickly hand over to my colleague Suyash here. Suyash, we are focusing of course on stocks that are likely to be impacted. Let's begin with Adani Group first.
Yes, Shweta, certainly. So Adani Group's Singapore subsidiary has entered a 50-50 joint venture with Singapore-based Kowa Holdings. Now the agreement is for the sales and marketing of green ammonia, hydrogen and its derivative products, which are supplied by the Adani Group. Now another, like there'll be a host of other green energy stocks that will benefit, such as the likes of GAIL, NTPC and JSW Neo. Apart from that, RIL is another stock which will be in focus after the G20 summit. Now the news is that RIL has entered a partnership with US-based chipmaker NVIDIA to develop India's own large language model, which will be trained on regional languages and which will be tailored for generative AI models. Now NVIDIA will provide Reliance Geo with access to its most advanced supercomputing service on the cloud to build AI applications for nearly 450 million users. Another stock which will benefit is Tata Communications. Now the news is that Tata Communications is also collaborating with NVIDIA, and it is also going to benefit from its AI cloud model, and it will also benefit from the high data speed transfer for the enterprises.
All right. Gaurang, both Tata Communications as well as RIL stock up by 2.3%, 0.43% respectively this morning.
Well, I think so. First, a disclosure, Shweta, we have a positive buy coverage on both of them, Reliance Industries as well as Tata Communication. And I think communication, the evolvement of or the evolving technology and the next level of communication is something that the government has been focusing for a pretty long period of time. I think from 2G to 3G, 3G to 4G, 5G, and now we're talking about a next level of communication. So I think that's going to, and more importantly, Shweta, the government is extremely focused about connecting semi-urban and rural India with the rest of the country. So my sense is that this evolving technology and policies towards enabling communication at a next level will possibly have a huge positive impact, not only on the companies which are providing those kind of platforms, but also towards the companies which will have the ability to make equipments of those levels. And of course, as far as RIL is concerned, Shweta, post the AGM, I think there is tremendous amount of focus. I mean, there was a little bit of concern as far as Geo Financial Services concerned, then the price discovery, then the listing of that particular arm, concerns with respect to whether the new age businesses that Reliance is stepping into, whether it will, create value. But we are extremely sure and confident about that. So we remain positive on both these stocks.
All right, and since we're talking about Reliance, I must also ask you about Geo Financial Services. What's the latest there? We hear that there is a deal by the virtue of which US could be looking at partnerships with Geo, and perhaps Geo would be replacing, and we're not talking about Geo Financial Services, I'm talking about Geo's telecom arm here, could be replacing Huawei.
Yeah, so I think, there was a big question mark as far as India's capability and capacity is concerned. I remember there used to be a good old saying that, some time back, that India is the land of snakes and snake charmers and monkeys. But I think look at the level that we have reached over a period of time. So absolutely no doubt in terms of, the kind of leadership that India can have going forward from here on. Geo Financial Services, Shweta, as of now, I will not comment too much in terms of buy, sell or hold, but there are a lot of small pieces which are flying in the air, which needs to possibly come down and give us a clear picture in terms of numbers. And that may take a little bit of while. Of course, the kind of parent backing that Geo Financial Services have, the war chest of cash that they have, the kind of technology, the kind of database, the kind of reach, the kind of networking, you ask and they have it. But unfortunately, for a person like me who looks at the fundamental more clearly, that visibility will come over a period of time, and getting approvals from the regulators, getting started at ground level, I think that's a little bit far away from where we are right now. So though the roadmap is absolutely clear, and quite confident about Geo Financial Services delivering on those promises. But as of now, there is nothing that I can actually speak in terms of numbers.
All right, but are we looking at a timeline? And I know you said that there's going to be time taken to get regulatory approvals, but are we looking at a fixed timeline here, perhaps next 6 to 8 months?
I would give it a year, Shweta, and
Okay.
of course BlackRock is also there, if I'm not mistaken. They want to go into mutual fund AMC. They want to go into insurance business.
So an AMC business by the end of the year is your expectation?
I hope so. I'll be optimistic.
All right, and we're all optimistic. But another stock that we're tracking here is JSW. JSW up almost 4%. Suyash, this morning.
Yes, Shweta. So this morning the news came out that private equity investor TGP, TEPCO, which is Tokyo Electric Power Company, and Brookfield are in advanced talk with the company to buy a minority stake in the JSW Neo Energy arm. Now, the subsidiary of the JSW Energy is looking to enter into agreements with like 2 of these companies, and the idea and what I'm reading is that JSW Group is looking to raise about $500 million from the stake sale. So this could be a big benefit for the boost for the stock, and as a result, we are seeing a price movement in the stock, and it's up about 4% this morning.
All right, and not just JSW, by the way of G20 and what's come out in the New Delhi Leaders Declaration, a lot of green energy stocks will be in focus today, Gaurang. A lot of positive development there as far as the new International Biofuel Alliance is concerned. Also is, sustainable alternative to crude, new furthering commitment, strengthening perhaps India's commitment and the commitment of G20 towards a more sustainable future. All of that could have an impact on the green energy stocks. Are you tracking some of them this morning?
Well, so I think all your oil marketing companies will be in focus, BPCL, HPCL, IOCL, and they have also mentioned about getting into green energy, and they have already put a roadmap in place in terms of investments, Shweta, in green energy, green hydrogen, to be more precise. Reliance Industries have spoken about it. L&T has spoken about it. If I have to look at some equipment manufacturing companies with this focus and leadership, definitely India will take, giving it, Asia Pacific emerging market and a capability of a sound leadership along with the democracy in place. So possibly we may outshine China as far as comparability is concerned. If I have to look at equipment manufacturing companies in this particular, and of course reducing, carbon footprint is something that the Honorable Prime Minister has already spoken about. So I think along with your RIL and L&Ts and the oil marketing companies, Engineers India would be the other company. It's a 51% government-owned entity. My sense is that somewhere close to about 150 or 160. The last time I saw it was trading at Engineers India. This also could be a good investment idea.
Gaurang, just wanted to get your view on L&T. Now, L&T touched a record high, I think, on Friday, and it also bagged a 24, or at least there are talks that it is likely to bag a deal with Saudi Aramco worth 24,000 crore rupees. Now, what's your outlook on the stock?
I think this is one of the, according to me, Shreyash, this is one of the most investor-friendly companies. I've been tracking this company for the last almost about, I think, 15, 20 years or maybe more. Every 3 years or so, the company comes out with 1:1 or 1:2 bonus or 2:1 bonus or whatever be it. After the price getting adjusted for bonus, 1 year, 1.5 year, the X bonus price again becomes the come bonus price. So just imagine the kind of value an investor creates by investing into L&T. Along with that, on the earnings front, I think with the kind of order book they have, diversified order book, and each and every vertical shares is contributing to the balance sheet of L&T. Be it complex turnkey project, be it hydrocarbon, be it infrastructure, be it defense, because L&T is a big player as far as servicing to the Indian Navy is concerned, and they've got a decent amount of orders as well. And of course, now with this green energy focus that the government is putting in, I think 2,900 is just a number. If you ask me, this stock can go to multiple higher levels from here on. Again, as a disclosure, we do have a positive coverage on L&T.
All right, Suyash, since we are talking about G20 stocks in focus, I also have to briefly mention infrastructure stocks are going to be in focus by the way of a mega corridor, an economic corridor that is likely to be developed in perhaps some years to come from now. We don't know a timeline on that, but a memorandum that was signed on the sidelines of G20, could that have an impact on infra stocks? Are there any particular stocks that we should be tracking today, Gaurang?
Well, so Shweta, I think those are a little bit away, all those connecting international borders by road. That will take a while. But in India itself, look at the kind of, be it Bharatmala Pariyojana, be it Sagarmala Pariyojana, be it dedicated freight corridors, freight quadrangles, connectivity, expressways, highways. There is huge opportunity. And I'll put one thing very simple, Shweta, that if we are thinking about growing from 6.5% GDP to 7.5, and maybe, a number that our late finance minister spoke about was 9.5 to 10% GDP growth rate for India. I think it's going to be very, very important to create new infrastructure, modernize the existing one, and get connected. So we, in the infrastructure universe, we like, L&D is also a play, Shweta, into infrastructure. Along that KNR constructions, PNC.
All right, Gaurang, sorry, I'll have to cut you short. We are getting visuals of Mohammed bin Salman meeting or going there to meet Prime Minister Modi. Let's play up those visuals. All right, there, Prime Minister Modi receiving the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. Remember, he's on a state visit to India up until today. We have inked some very special economic partnerships with Saudi Arabia, in fact with the entire Middle East for that matter, and I want to quickly also touch upon that economic corridor we talked about in just a while from now, but visuals there coming in from the national capital this morning. All right. Talking about the partnerships that we have with Saudi Arabia and what's likely to come in by the way of an economic corridor, let me quickly get in my colleague Karthik Malhotra, who will be joining us very, very shortly, on what it means to have an economic corridor connecting India Middle East and Europe. And why is it so significant, so important and so huge, Karthik? An alternate Silk Route is what many people are calling it.
Hi, good morning, Shweta, Suyash. Hi, Gaurang. Thanks for joining us this morning. No doubt,
Thank you,
Shweta,
Gaurang.
I mean, this is pretty much the new spice route, not really the Silk Route. The Silk Route is China's Belt and Road Initiative. That's the new Silk Road. I think what India is trying to do with the Middle East right now, what India is trying to do by way of this I2U2 coming together, which is India, Israel, UAE and US, and add to that the larger Middle East bucket, which also includes Saudi Arabia. And that is why these visuals are very important right now, that we are actually, in a sense, trying to create an alternate supply chain, an alternate trade line by way of roads, by way of railways, by way of hydrogen pipes, and by way of data connectivity. Where this corridor is actually going to have two fangs. One is going to be the eastern corridor and one is going to be the northern corridor. The eastern corridor connects the Middle East to India, and the northern corridor now connects the Middle East to Europe. I mean, this of course is a long-term plan, and let these visuals play out, lovely visuals coming there, and we'll get into, you know, a nice explanation of what this new corridor could look like. But, you know, if I can get Gaurang back in this discussion while these visuals continue to play. Gaurang, what does this really, you know, entail as far as trade between the Western Bloc, the Middle East and India is concerned? And I believe this is not something which is likely to take off, you know, very
Anytime soon.
It's a large infrastructure, massive infrastructure project actually. So no timeline per se has been arrived at yet. But in your experience, what, we are looking at a 20-year window, or could this be shorter than that?
Karthik, thank you and morning to you as well. So that's what I was just discussing with Shweta a while back. You know, this is, you know, good part about all this is it creates opportunity and equal opportunity for all. Gone are the days of dominance that the developed country had. And more so, Karthik, with the kind of natural reserves that lies in this part of the world, especially in the Middle East. Our sense is that it's at least good to see a humble beginning taking place. It will take a while because we'll need consensus from all the stakeholders which are involved in this. So maybe possibly, you know, sooner rather than later, I would say, yeah, but maybe 10, 15 years cannot be ruled out. But possibly it might be put to fast track, given the kind of focus and dominance that India has to play, and along with that, the policies that the Honorable Prime Minister is having in his mind.
And does it sort of, you know, augur well at, you know, in the times that we live in, Gaurang, where China's Belt and Road Initiative has already seen investments over $1 trillion. And yesterday we saw that perhaps, you know, Italy is pulling out of that Belt and Road Initiative with China. So in that context, I'm not talking geopolitics here, I'm actually talking geoeconomics. So in that standpoint, you know, do you see closer trade ties between Europe and India developing by way of the, you know, the supply chain economies that one could get with a corridor of this nature?
No, honestly, Karthik, how much of do we believe in that comes out from China in terms of news flows? I honestly have my own reservations. I will take it with a bag full of salt, not with a pinch of salt, whatever comes out from China. And yeah, I mean, they are doing their bit after what they have gifted to the world, the Wuhan virus. I think they need to do a little bit better than that. But I don't think there's going to be any comparison. And the entire project, as far as China is concerned, you know, it was all, you know, from the time it started, it had very weak pillars on which it stood. And with Pakistan being a partner, you can very well imagine where the things are going to go. So I don't think that's going to create any kind of threat. And I think we should focus on our geographies over here, with Middle East and Europe being an integral part of that particular trade.
Right. Talk to us specifically about Saudi Arabia and our trade deals with Saudi Arabia. We have these live visuals playing of the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman, at the Rashtrapati Bhavan. I think he's here on a state visit. We are made to understand, Gaurang, that certain MOUs have been signed. We don't know what those MOUs and the details of those MOUs or the value of those MOUs as yet. But there are MOUs which have been signed, and oil obviously seems to be the most likely deal that we could strike further, with Saudi Arabia and the whole Middle East region. Is there something else between Saudi Arabia and India that could move the markets today?
Well, so I think, oil is going to be something that is going to be a history as we go forward from here on. And I think the primary, and of course, as in terms of the Crown Prince, MBS, he has already changed a lot of, policies in Saudi Arabia. They have opened up their borders. They have made some crucial changes in their policies, and opportunity in terms of a role that India has to play. So India is rather connected very closely with the Middle East, including Saudi Arabia. And the number of expats that we have over there, the number speaks for itself, and the kind of contribution that the Indians are doing over there. So I think there will be much more to it than what we anticipate. So let's hope possibly by end of day or maybe tomorrow we'll have clarity in terms of what the bilateral trades are.
All right, Gaurang, thanks very much. I think we've stretched you here a little bit, but thank you very much for taking time out. We hope to get you back very, very soon. But keeping up with markets, Suyash, let's also quickly tell our viewers major events to look out for this week.
Certainly, Shweta. So first, tomorrow we have the CPI numbers coming out. Now, India's headline inflation is expected to subside a little. In July, it was about 7.44%. From what I am reading, analysts are expecting a print of about 7%. Now, this will be an important data point to track, because this will also give us some insight as to RBI's interest rate trajectory.
Okay.
Also, the next day, September 13, we will see US CPI inflation numbers coming out. So that will also be keenly eyed, because FOMC ends on September 20th. And at least the expectation as of now, 93% of the analysts, as per the Reuters poll, expect FOMC to not hike interest rates in this. But if you look at the November's expectation, about 50% only expect a pause. So clarity will be we'll seek some clarity over there, and it will majorly depend upon the inflation print. Also on September 14, we will have WPI inflation numbers coming out, and the following day, balance of trade and import and export data will also be keenly
a very
tracked.
significant week there to look out for. More concerning, or perhaps more relevant, would be the headline inflation numbers. Wholesale inflation still under control. It's the pulses, vegetable inflation, which has been problematic, which has been a bone of contention, keeping perhaps a lot of people up and about.
Definitely. So if you look at the core inflation on a month-on-month basis has subsided from May to July. But the problem remains is that fuel and energy prices and food prices. Now, food and energy prices has taken the headline inflation numbers much beyond RBI's tolerance of about 6% to 7.44%. But the thing is that with food and energy prices, they are highly volatile, and there are policy initiatives which RBI can introduce to control them. So unless and until core inflation remains a problem, the expectation is that the rate pause is likely to continue, and we may not see a rate hike, at least in the subsequent meetings.
All right, no rate hike expected. Of course, that's the big news coming in. Suyash, thanks very much for taking time out. We will keep tracking all those big developments. But